Welcome to Homeschool Today. I'm Andrea Johns, and in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at several homeschool methods to help you determine what method might be right for you and your family.
Life is crazy, it's a wild. Won't you stay with me for a while? Let me show you your superpower. Let's get to it, you know your homeschool teacher. All right.
This is a two-part series. In Episode 1, we will look at the classical, Charlotte Mason, and the Montessori methods of homeschooling. In Part 2, we will look at school at home, unit studies, unschooling, eclectic, and a few lesser-known methods. Statistics continually demonstrate that homeschool students outperform their peers in standardized testing, reading, writing, and reasoning. There are more studies that show that homeschoolers are even better prepared and hence perform better in college than their peers. You've read these reports and you're intrigued. Or perhaps your children have spent years in public school, and for social or academic reasons, you feel it's time to make a change because things just aren't working out as you had expected. Whatever the reason is, you have come to this point where you've decided to homeschool, but are not certain which method of homeschooling would best suit your family. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the first 3 methods of homeschooling. These will be high-level overviews that provide you enough information to get you thinking. One of the best things about homeschooling is also one of the most challenging things. You have so many options for what and how you choose to home educate. As you listen to this overview, try to think about what sounds most appealing to you and what would best suit the personalities of your children. One of the most popular methods of homeschooling used today is called the classical method. This method uses the wisdom of time-tested educational practices dating back to the time of the ancient Greeks and Romans. One of the key principles of the classical method is a belief that history should be taught as a narrative. This simply means telling history as a story of connected events. Further, all other subjects should be aligned as much as possible with the history timeline that you're currently studying. By using this approach, students are equipped to understand the consequences of ideas over time. This method differs from conventional schooling and other homeschooling methods that tend to jump around from topic to topic and teach history as a separate subject for study. In the classical method, students learn foreign languages like Latin or Greek, or may choose modern languages like Spanish or French. Classical proponents believe that studying the most influential books ever printed, known as the great books, is the best way to ensure the student is well educated. These books include books written by Plato, Aristotle, and Homer, just to name a few. The greatest minds that the world has ever known were primarily educated using the classical model. The next model we'll talk about is known as Charlotte Mason. Charlotte Mason was a British educator who spent her life developing and improving the quality of children's education in the last half of the 19th century. The Charlotte Mason method is based on her belief that the child is a person and that we must educate that whole person, not just his or her mind. Charlotte spoke of education in this way. Education is an atmosphere, a discipline, a life. This is a Christian homeschool style, but can easily be adapted for any at-home education environment. Charlotte Mason uses short periods of study of 15 to 20 minutes for elementary-age students and works up to about 45 minutes for high school students. The main emphasis of this method of schooling is short work periods and extended nature walks that include nature journaling. She does stuff like creating history portfolios, memorization, and narration. This method focuses on reading living books. Living books are books that are written by experts on the subject who have a great passion for their area of learning. The books engage the reader instead of boring them the way that textbooks can if they're dry and uninteresting. There are no long written tests with this method. Instead, the journals and narrations on the books that they read are the way students demonstrate what they have learned. Charlotte Mason lets children discover and learn at their own pace in a very relaxed and student-directed way. The vast majority of Charlotte Mason materials are inexpensive or even free to download. This makes this method of homeschooling a great choice if you are on a strict budget. The third method of homeschooling we'll talk about is known as Montessori. It is named for the early 20th century Italian physician and educator Maria Montessori. This method grew from her psychology work with special needs children. This method is a humanistic, student-based approach that utilizes free movement, large unstructured time blocks, and interest-based individualized learning plans. Teachers don't really teach, but instead instruct, only indirectly, in more of a facilitator-type role. Montessori uses tons of manipulatives and options for hands-on learning. Children are free to explore and discover naturally. This method is set up to work in learning centers. In a center, there would be a large variety of options relating to a single subject or area. For instance, in a math center, you might find paper and pencils, but you'd definitely find flashcards, counting beads, geoboards, pattern blocks, and even an abacus. The idea is that students will gravitate naturally towards the items that will foster their natural style of learning. Now, one of the big drawbacks of Montessori is that it's an official teaching method, so technically to teach Montessori, you will need to complete training classes and become certified to teach. Even if you decide to just teach and use the Montessori principles, it's probably still best to either pursue certification or at minimum visit a local Montessori school to ensure you are applying this model correctly so you get as much from it as you are hoping to. These are 3 of the most widely used and popular methods of homeschooling being used today in home education. There are 4 more main methods and some lesser-known methods that we will cover in part 2 of this series. I hope that this introduction to methods of homeschooling has you excited about learning more about the other methods and eventually choosing one so you can start working on your family homeschool plan. There are also videos on our channel that cover each of these models in much greater detail, including the history of the model, resources, beginning to plan, and what a daily schedule might look like in your home for each of the methods. Please take a moment to hit the like button at the bottom of the screen. It's what keeps us making these videos. And then click on the subscribe button and the bell so you will be the first to know as new videos are released. As always, thank you for joining us today, and until next time, happy homeschooling.
Life is crazy, it's so wild.